Welcome to another episode of the WIU Football Coaches Show alongside the head coach of the Western Illinois football team, Bob Nielsen. I'm Danny Fry. The Fighting Leathernecks had a bye last week, but it's back to action this Saturday against Southern Illinois. Coach, what was the game plan going into the bye week sitting on a 1-2 overall record?
Work to get better. Every week you got to improve. As we head to the Missouri Valley Conference schedule, I think that's really the critical thing, is you got to be a better football team Saturday than you were the Saturday before, and that's our goal for this week against Southern Illinois.
How much does the bye week game plan when it comes to practices and stuff like that, how does that differ from a typical game week?
We spent a lot of time on some fundamental things that we felt we had to improve upon, as well as looking ahead to Southern Illinois. Continue to spend a lot of time on the kicking game. There were some areas there where we felt we could get better. Got a chance to look at some of our younger players a little bit more, guys that we're bringing along in development that we think are going to have to help us towards the end of the year. And so those were a slightly different emphasis than we'd have in a game week.
Coach, you talk about the kicking game, and really at the beginning of the year you talked about how much improvement there were with Nathan Knuffman, the kicker, and you're starting to use the punter, Luke Otto, a little bit too. How they come along so far this year?
They've been solid. We've had some plays in the kicking game, certainly that have been big plays for us. Unfortunately, we've given up a few too many big plays, and those are the things that we have to get corrected. We want to be a team that wins the kicking game every week, and right now that hasn't been the case.
And there's a lot of other aspects of the game as well, including the WIU defense, which has been the biggest question mark going into the 2015 season, with inexperience at key positions in the secondary and linebacking core. But the Leatherneck defense also has surprised some people so far this year.
You just can't get enough reps right now. With getting some of our young guys more and more experienced and ready for the live fire of real football games. So the first 3 weeks gave us some great plays, and then a couple where we need to be a little bit better, and we tried to focus on those areas.
Right now, like most teams in the first 4 games that are young, we're just trying to find an identity and find out what we do well and what puts our kids in the best spots to be successful.
The young secondary and linebacking core are showing signs of improvement every week.
Those guys are functioning as a cohesive unit and do a nice job communicating and being on the same page. We haven't had, a lot of blown assignments, just situations where we can be just an edge better. And those guys have done a nice job competing aggressively after the football.
We're doing great. There's no better teacher than experience, and that's what those guys are getting right now. They're getting a ton of reps, and that's the most important thing. Those guys' best football will be later as we continue to go on.
From the last week, Xavier Rowe was competed his butt off at corner. We were impressed with his effort against Coastal, and then during the bye week, it was fairly unanimous effort in the back end with guys working really hard.
When it comes to the defensive line, they're an experienced group anchoring the rest of the defense.
They're exactly what we expected. That's our quote-unquote veteran group on the defense, and those guys are playing that way. They're playing up to expectations and beyond right now.
The defensive coaching staff is pleased with the unit as of right now, but certain aspects of the game can be improved.
Right now, we just need to become more disciplined in our run fits and making sure we're where we need to be when we need to be there.
We're pleased with where we're at right now, but obviously every week you want to get exponentially better. And the first 3 weeks of play have done that, and we'll find out here at the end of this week how much better we've gotten over the bye week heading into Southern.
So, Coach, how concerned were you at the beginning of this year with some inexperience in some of those integral positions there in the secondary?
Well, I felt really good about the spring that those guys had, and with the 2 safeties that had played a lot last year, knew we had guys there that could be future leaders in our program. Our corners untested. At the same time, we felt that the spring was a good evaluation, that we've got guys in the right place, and so been pleased with the way that they've played, and I think it's a group that's going to continue to get better.
Now, why have they been forcing a lot of turnovers this year up there in the Missouri Valley for forced fumbles? Why is the team so hungry to make those turnovers?
Part of that's been emphasis. Coach Yelk and Coach Bradley, Coach Monson on the defensive side put a great deal of emphasis on forcing turnovers, trying to strip the football, I think the types of coverages that we're playing are allowing us to get better jumps on the football. We've got doing some slightly different things in the secondary, and it's paid off, and we need that to continue to pay off for us.
Now, last year, the defensive coordinator was Brian Ward. He took the same position at Bowling Green, having some success over there, some Big Ten wins for Bowling Green. And now you decided to go, you see this a lot more now of co-defensive coordinators, as you mentioned, Coach Bradley and Coach Yelk. How have you seen that work so far?
Well, we had 3 guys on our staff when Brian left that had been defensive coordinators at one point in time in their career, and felt that by splitting out the workload and how we were doing that was the best way to do it. It also made it possible because of the fact that I knew as a team those 3 would work well together, and they've worked exceptionally well together, each having their own role within the unit.
Now, we talked about the experience in the secondary, but lost a lot in the linebacking core. How much do you think they learned from those guys like J.J. Raffles and Kevin Kinsel, Luke Venegoni to kind of step right in? Taylor had some experience last year, too.
Well, they were understudies behind really good players, very experienced players, and I do think you learn from players just like you do learn from coaches, and that group still got a long ways to go, but at the same time we've gotten some good play, and you know, it continues to be a group that's going to be a work in progress, and we'll see improvement as the year goes on.
All right, stay tuned for an update on the Western Illinois offense after this commercial break. You're watching the WIU Football Coaches Show, your home for Fighting Leatherneck football.
Western Illinois University allows you to think for yourself and to discover the freedom to become your own.
Own it at Western. Build your own expectations and fill your own shoes.
Explore an academic culture that adapts to you.
Create yourself and inspire originality in an open and safe environment.
Western Illinois University lets you make your own success story.
Think purple.
Think success.
Think Western Illinois University.
Welcome back to the WIU Football Coaches Show. I'm Danny Fry, alongside Leatherneck and football coach Bob Nielsen. Coach, you said earlier you like the early season bye week. Why do you think that is an advantage?
Well, it gives you a chance to really kind of go back and take a look at where you're at with regard to your offense and defensive packages and fine-tune some things. When you get too far along during the season, it's a little harder to do that. I also think it's great for younger players, and we've got a lot of younger players that are contributing, so that extra week of practice hopefully has moved those people farther along.
And without a doubt, during camp, all the hype was with the Leatherneck offense, and after a slow start to the season, the offense heated up at Coastal Carolina in Week 3. As they head into Missouri Valley Conference play, the offense looks to take another step in the right direction.
Our biggest one is we look at it like we got to go out and be the most physical group. So yeah, there'll be a physical group that we see, but we got to raise that level and just continue to play really fast physically.
Offensive line, we've done a great job in pass protection. You know, Nico went for over 140 yards, I think, last week. So, you know, those guys, being an experienced group, you know, they're kind of learning on the job here a little bit, but they've been a really good group. And then, you know, obviously our receiving core turned it on. You know, really the last 3 quarters last week, and that really helped us move the ball and then softened them up so we could run it a little bit better too.
The offensive line is adjusting throughout the early part of the season.
We've developed is probably the best word to say it. You know, we were supposed to be a group that had 4 seniors and a junior. right now we really got one senior, a junior, and a bunch of sophomores that are playing really well. So that's the fun part. That's really to see those young guys rise and continue to get better, and a couple young guys after that. So they've gotten better each week. You know, we started out slow, and that was on me in week 1. Just didn't give them some of the right looks to prepare for. And then at Illinois, we actually played really good. No sacks, you know, kind of cleaned things up by far. And then they took it physically to another level at Coastal.
After a slow start to the season, junior quarterback Trenton Norvell got into a groove at Coastal Carolina.
Our game against Coastal was probably his most complete game, you know, given the competition we were playing against and really what we asked him to do. He did a great job. You know, it was probably trying a little too hard early in the year and just kind of cut it loose at Coastal and you know, obviously performed pretty well. I think there's always the comfort in, you know, if you know where to throw it and they're always open, that makes things a little bit easier. But they've developed a really good rapport the last couple of years, and you know, and it's an explosive group, and you know, it's a fun group, so that makes things, you know, offensively a lot of fun for us.
The running game also came back to life in the game against the Chanticleers.
Smart O-line coaches know one thing. Quarterbacks that get the ball out quick make you look good, and running backs that can run people over make you look good. So it went really well. Nico's been a great addition along with that whole stable of backs. Steve brings a different, you know, kind of like a J.C. Baker flavor, as people would know, quick-footed. But, you know, that whole group is ready to go. Demo will be back and rolling. You know, top to bottom, they're a talented group.
Both Schlafke and Blazek know what to key in on for a bye week.
A bye week's always a good chance to look at yourself, you know, evaluate what you've been doing well and what you need to, you know, get better at. You know, for us, it was a lot of, you know, our base stuff, just getting better at it and being able to apply it to more of the game plan and be able to move forward that way.
As coaches, you kind of look ahead, stay organized, but really the number one thing we're focused on is getting ourselves better. It's a chance to really develop the second group, and then your starters really fine sharpen everything.
So, Coach, what do you think was missing from the offense to really click kind of those first 2 games, and it kind of all came together, at least on the offensive side against Coastal?
I think we were pressing a little bit early, and obviously we didn't have great balance, and we had better balance in our offense against Coastal. Some of that was we were still shuffling some guys around in the offensive line. We've got better continuity there now, and having had guys that have played together now for a couple of weeks. And certainly the play of Trent Norvell. You know, Trent was one of those guys that I think pressed a little bit the first 2 weeks, maybe tried to do a little bit too much, and you know, 2 weeks ago you saw what our offense is capable of doing.
Yeah, now we're going to mix it up a little bit at this point, and we're going to go with the 2-minute drill, bring it back from last year, resurrect it from the Andrew Bacon era. And normally we ask a WIU football player some questions, but we have Coach Nielsen here, so you might as well use him as a guest. So, Coach, you think you're ready to go?
All right, let's give it a try.
Let's give it a try. And start out, any favorite professional teams? You're kind of just focused on the Leathernecks.
Well, you know, growing up, I was a Kansas City Chief fan, believe it or not, back in the old Ed Podolak days and Hank Stram days. So I'd have to say that was my favorite team.
The Chiefs guy, kind of coming off a rough one though against the Packers in a rematch of the first Super Bowl. Now, as we're talking about Super Bowls, what about a Super Bowl prediction possibly, or maybe just a little tad busy right now?
Yeah, probably pretty busy and a little early, but hard to go against the Patriots. You know, they've got it going there in New England.
Without a doubt. Now, what sport do you think you watch the most outside of football?
You know, right now, probably in addition to football, the sport that I watch on TV is golf. I try to play myself, so watching golf is probably the other sport that I watch on TV.
How are you on the course? How would you describe your game?
Very inconsistent.
As we all are. So, favorite opponent on the schedule? Maybe a certain team you look forward to? Obviously, every opponent's important every week.
You know, I think probably it was, for me, it was really exciting that first year when we went up to Minnesota, having spent all those years in Minnesota and knowing a lot of people on the Gopher staff. Tremendous environment there at TCF Bank Stadium.
Without a doubt. And you know, we talk about those type of games. What's the most exciting game you've been a part of as a coach, a fan, or whatever?
I'd probably have to say the 2010 national championship game where we won on a last-second field goal as time expired. It was almost, it happened so fast you didn't even realize what had happened until about 3 days after the game.
You mentioned golf. Was there anything else you really try and do in your free time outside of football in the off season?
I really enjoy fishing. My son's an avid fisherman too. Just don't get as much time to do that as I'd like to do.
Sure, and a lot of good areas out here to do that too. Last question, it's the most important one. All-time favorite TV show?
Oh boy, I like watching sports on TV, but if you ask me movie, I'd have to say Rudy. I actually know Rudy's high school coach, and so it kind of hits home when I watch that, and it's a neat story.
Was he offsides?
Probably.
All right, that's it for the 2-minute drill, and we've got more on the way next. You're dialed into the WIU Football Coaches Show.
Founded in 1985, the Missouri Valley Football Conference has established a tradition of FCS football excellence. Competing at the highest level at NCAA Division I, student athletes at its 10 institutions demonstrate character, passion, and integrity as they grow as a student, an athlete, and a citizen. The Missouri Valley Football Conference, where leaders are shaped and champions are forged.
I always knew I would be a leatherneck. Western was the only university I applied to. The educational opportunities at Western provided me experiences and lessons in leadership and service. The faculty and staff at Western genuinely care about the students, and I know that choosing WIU is key to the beginning of my success story. Think purple, think success, think Western Illinois University.
Welcome back to the WIU Football Coaches Show. I'm your host, Danny Fry. The town of Macomb has been aware of Brett Taylor for a while before he became the starting middle linebacker for the Fighting Leathernecks. Taylor starred for the Macomb High School football team before choosing to stay in town to continue his football career.
When I think of Macomb, Illinois, I think of the Bombers and I think of the Leathernecks. That's about it. That comes to mind.
I've had Brett Taylor coming to camps here since he was in the first grade. And sometimes as a coach, you see these kids just come up through the ranks, and sometimes when they're little, there's just something about some athletes that that they're going to be special, and Brett was one of those.
Taylor grew as a player at Macomb High School under the direction of Coach Sears.
Playing for Kelly Sears was great. He's a great guy. Taught me a lot about the game, and he's just one cool dude.
With Brett is that it was a learning curve, and I think his first few years at the varsity level, Brett played mostly on athletic ability. And then, I really talked to Brett about learning your keys and reading your keys and doing things. And then his senior year, he'd had some other guys that he had kind of followed and had kind of took him and said, hey, this is what we got to do, and he'd listen to them. And then his senior year, he really just came into his own.
Playing here, that was cool. My senior year, on senior night, we got to play here against QD, which is pretty cool because Eddie Holzschlag's from QD, so that's always cool. And I just got a taste of what I was going to play like in the future. I've always wanted to be a Leatherneck.
Even though he graduated, Taylor still helps out his former team when he can.
He was here almost all summer long in the weight room in the morning with the kids and stuff. And he is, you talk about Brett, and it's just, I just get excited. And, watching him play and, watching him play the Illinois game on the Big Ten channel, it's fun to sit at home and watch players that you coach that, that you understand that what's going on in their head while they're playing.
I'm not sure how much they appreciate it, but hopefully a lot. I love going back. They're great guys. I love going back and helping out.
One or two kids on the team that did play with Brett while he was here, and they're asking about him, and he always asks about the kids and how so and so is doing. But what a fine young student athlete, and I'd take 1,000,000 Brett Taylors.
Taylor finds himself running into old faces from his high school playing days all the time.
I ran into a couple referees and stuff, and then just in town, I played against some people that go to Western now, so that's always cool to run into them.
Ultimately, he's more than happy of his decision to stay in Macomb for college.
Some people might be embarrassed to say they go to Western from Macomb, but I absolutely love it, you know. I know everyone. I mean, it's just great. I love being in Macomb. My whole family's here. They can come watch me whenever I want, and what's better playing for the hometown?
The big thing is that you always want to see your athletes succeed, and you know, whether they go to Notre Dame or USC or wherever. But the nice thing about it is having him right here in town, and the big thing is I can call him or text him, and if I needed something, he'd be over here in a heartbeat.
So, Coach, talking with Brett Taylor, you know, when you talk about Macomb, his face just lights up. He really is a hometown kid. And talk about what was your first impression when you got here to Macomb and met Brett Taylor?
Kind of guy we wanted in our program. You knew he was going to work as hard as he possibly could and radiate the kind of pride and passion that you want your players to have for the program that they're involved with.
Now, is it nice having that local flavor kind of on the team? You know, maybe get a little more, you know, hometown pride with watching the game?
I think it's really important. We always want to try to capture and recruit the best local talent, builds local connections to your program and local support.
Now let's take our last break of the show, but stay tuned as up next, Coach and I will preview this week's homecoming matchup against Southern Illinois.
I chose Western because it reminded me of home and for its outstanding forensic chemistry program. My classes and academic experiences give me the knowledge I'll need for my career. The programs at Western teach me to lead and contribute to my community. I know my choice is the beginning of my success story. Think purple, think success, think Western Illinois University.
Western Illinois University allows you to think for yourself and to discover the freedom to become your own.
Own it at Western. Build your own expectations and fill your own shoes.
Explore an academic culture that adapts to you.
Create yourself and inspire originality in an open and safe environment.
Western Illinois University lets you make your own success story.
Think purple.
Think success.
Think Western Illinois University.
Welcome back to the WIU Football Coaches Show. It's time to check in on how the Missouri Valley teams performed last weekend. Only a couple teams in action, and they were Southern Illinois and South Dakota State, and they both rolled, putting up 34 spots on both Robert Morris and Liberty. And then now take a look at the games on tap this week. It's the first week of Missouri Valley football action. Everybody in action. There's a couple big games on the schedule. Northern Iowa and Illinois State's very intriguing. And down at the bottom of your screen, North Dakota State taking on the only undefeated 3-0 team in the Valley, South Dakota State. And then, of course, a very interesting matchup in Macomb that we will touch on here, Western and Southern. So, Coach, after a week off, how do you expect your team to come out after that bye week?
I think they're going to be really excited to play. I know I've talked to a lot of our guys. They're excited to get back on the field and obviously excited to open conference play.
Now let's talk about your opponent there, Southern Illinois, the Salukis. This is the Missouri Valley opener for both teams. SIU's coming off of their first win of the year, an upset over number 10 Liberty, 34-13. What really stood out in that game when you're watching the film?
Well, what stands out to you is really what's stood out over the first 3 weeks, and that's the fact that they've moved the ball very consistently, both in the run and through the air, and a dual threat quarterback that is playing really well right now.
Yeah, that's Mark Iannotti, and he's back under center. Talk about how you guys tried to contain him last year, and then how you try and adjust that game plan to this week.
Well, their offense is really different this year. They're doing more designed quarterback run with him. You know, they'll run quarterback power, and then once you kind of gang up against the run, they'll use his ability to throw to try to hit big plays on the perimeter. So what we've got to do is we've got to be really sound in our run fits, disruptive up front and contain that running game while not allowing them to make big plays on the perimeter.
Defensively, sophomore Kenny James and junior inside linebacker Chase Allen lead in tackling, and that's another tough defense. And are you guys going to try and stay with that same balanced attack to try and counter that?
Yeah, we've got to get a running game established. They're a team that wants to try to take away the run, but if you can have some effectiveness running the football, then it's going to open up some opportunities for you to throw it, and so balance will be the key.
Now, this is the homecoming game. Obviously, you're just going to say it's, another week, kind of know the answer, but how is the team reacting to homecoming at home and really a pivotal week?
Well, our guys are excited to be back at home. It's been a month. It's hard to believe, but it's actually been a month since we played at home, and that home opener against Eastern Illinois, we had a great crowd. I hope we get an even better crowd here Saturday afternoon, and a crowd that will help give us that home field advantage at Hansen Field.
And kickoff for the homecoming game against the Salukis is set for 3:05 p.m. on Saturday at Hansen Field. For Coach Nielsen, I'm Danny Fry. Thanks again for watching.